Welcome, everybody. We are live coming from DOOLA HQ in New York City. We're going to let folks trickle in and let's get the chat popping right now. So I always like to ask, I'm going to start off here, if you can comment in the chat where you were based. So I'm commenting here, DOOLA is me. Commenting, I'm based in New York City. I'll actually add by Madison Square Park. So whoever else is in here, if you could just drop a comment with where you were based, and we're going to give folks about 30 seconds to a minute. Maybe we'll do 2. And we will see where folks are tuning in from. When we've done these in the past, it is a very global audience. I'm expecting we'll see the same here as well. So we got, I'm just looking here, Emanula, where are you based? If you could let me know. Okay, we got one person tuning in from Jamaica. I've never been to Jamaica before. I would love to. It looks like I might have to hit you up for some recommendations when I visit. I would love to at some point. Let's see. We have Philippines tuning in. That is awesome. I hope it's not too late. It might be 2 a.m. there if I'm getting the time zones correct. And Kazakhstan. Oh, yes. I do remember chatting with you. Awesome. Good to see you again. And yeah, maybe we can bring you up on stage and hear how your business has been going. So we're going to give folks about 30 more seconds here. And while folks trickle in, as a reminder, today, this is an Ask Me Anything. Business questions. We can talk everything about, obviously, getting a business off the ground, which means anything from entity formation to banking to bookkeeping to taxes, can talk about that. So if folks have questions, if you prepare them or if you want to start thinking about them now, perfect. The other thing we can also do is we can talk about the entrepreneurial journey. Every single journey is different. It obviously starts somewhere, might be in a garage, might be in your office, but we'll talk about the journey too. So if folks have questions about maybe more of the mental parts of the journey, hey, how can I challenge or how can I tackle this challenge or solve this problem? We can talk about that too. So we'll give folks about 30 more seconds. And if you want to start, for folks who are in here already, thinking about any questions you might have. Again, to summarize, it could be more business tactical questions around nuts and bolts of entity formation, bookkeeping, taxes, banking, and more, or entrepreneurial journey. So with that in mind, for the folks who are here already in the chat, are there any open questions folks have? You can drop them right into the chat. You can also, I'm going to start a Q&A here. So in the Q&A, let me just jot this down here. Any questions? Let's DOOLA it. And I'm going to let's drop in a little emoji here. Okay, so you'll see in the Q&A here, y'all can drop questions in directly, and I will grab questions as they come in, and we will go from there. So let me give folks a second to start asking some questions. And you should be able to see this on the right-hand sidebar if you're tuning in on desktop. On mobile, I believe it might be underneath, but you can tune in from either of those places and drop a question. So Amanula or Chazzy or David, any of y'all have any questions, drop them into the live Q&A. You can also put them in the chat, and then I can toss them into the Q&A section as well. If we don't have questions, immediately, what I want to do today is I'm happy to do a little demo or overview of a brand new launch from last week from DOOLA. So what we will also do is I will do a run through of DOOLA bookkeeping, which is something brand new. It's a brand new universe that the DOOLA team built. So I'll give folks, again, one more minute just to trickle in. And if there are no questions, I will start with a screen share, and I'm going to start to run through the DOOLA bookkeeping universe. Welcome, Uday from Nagpur, India. Great to see you. If I'm doing my time zones correct here, it is 9:30 p.m. in your time zone. So thanks for tuning in at night. Really appreciate it. Uday, just as a recap, if you have any questions, you can drop them into the Q&A section on the right. Same thing goes for you, Amanula or David. And also anyone new joining, as a reminder, this is an open AMA or Q&A. I am going to run through, if there are no immediate questions, a DOOLA bookkeeping demo, but obviously I'd love to answer any specific question folks have to help unblock. And as a reminder, questions-wise, we can cover anything about nuts and bolts of business formation, banking, taxes, bookkeeping, or we could talk about the entrepreneurial journey, more of the mindset, the challenges that one might face starting a business, scaling a business, running it, and growing it too. Okay, so we got a question here in the live chat. Question from Amanula. I'm going to start here again. You can drop them in, and I'll go to bookkeeping if there are no new questions here. Question is, can I request for another EIN under my name for my other business name? Amanula, please clarify in the chat. I believe, if I understand the situation here, is you have two EINs, or you're wondering if you can get two EINs, meaning you started an LLC, or you got an EIN through another company or through that LLC, and you'd now like to request another EIN for a second business. You can do that. If you have two entities, you would then have two separate EINs and two separate bank accounts, which is what you might want to do to actually separate personal from business for both. But if you could just let me know or clarify if this is the case, where you have a second entity, or if you have one entity, I'm not entirely sure from the question why you would need a second EIN for the same entity. So for that, I wouldn't recommend that, / I would need to know more about your use case to understand why you'd be looking to do that. But if you're forming multiple entities, and folks might actually do this because they have a completely separate business. So let's say you do a consulting business where you consult on startup advice, right? You talk to founders, you give them coaching or advice. You might have a separate business, which is drop shipping on Shopify. Completely different business, different economics, different suppliers, maybe different risk profile. Because of that, you'd actually want a separate entity. And in that case, if you have a separate entity, you want to get two separate EINs, two separate business bank accounts, and keep things entirely separate. So Amanula, let me know. Please clarify there. But if I understand you, if you have two entities, yes, you can get two EINs, get two separate bank accounts, and you would treat those as entirely separate businesses. Okay, let me pull up the Q&A, see if there's any new questions here. Okay, no new questions there. So what I'm going to do is, again, for folks joining, please drop where you're based in the world into the chat. And also, please drop any questions you have. But what I'm going to now do is I'm going to share my screen, and I want to do a little overview of the latest from DOOLA. Now, something we've heard loud and clear from founders from all over the world, let me share my screen, is it's hard enough to actually run your business, let alone start it. And what we've learned is that anything we can do to actually simplify the running and growing, it gives you more time as a founder to focus on what you do best. Actually, not only what you can do best, but you're the only one who can do it. You can't bring someone external to start the business. You're doing that. Or really understanding your first customers and deciding what the product roadmap might be. So given that, anything we can do to free up more time allows you to focus on what you do best, while DOOLA then handles the rest. So given that, we know that when you start a business, you need to obviously get your entity set up, an LLC or a C Corp. You need your tax identification number, that EIN. You need a registered agent so that you can apply for a business bank account. Then you can connect it to a payment processor like Stripe or Shopify Payments and accept payments. Also, every year, as part of your compliance, there are state tax filings and there are federal tax filings that need to be submitted. However, what happens in between? You have to keep up to date, right? If you don't do any prep in terms of, or organization in terms of your finances, one, it won't help you run your business. You won't have an overview of, hey, how's my business doing? Cash in, cash out. What about transactions? How's my business doing? Am I making money? Am I losing money? So it'll be harder for you to actually operate the business. But then there's a saying I like, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of the cure. If you aren't doing anything during the year, come tax season, it's going to be a mess, because you might have transactions on a personal credit card, a business bank account, some cash transactions, some notes on a piece of paper, some notes in Excel. So when it comes time to tax season to actually file your taxes, your CPA is going to say, hey, I can't file your taxes. I don't know where all your transactions are. I don't know how much money you made. I don't know how much income there was. I don't know how much cash went out. I don't know if you're profitable, if you're losing money. I don't know if there's any tax deductions I can make. Did you know that up to $5,000 of startup cost, including what you spend on DOOLA, can actually be deducted? So there's major tax savings you could actually get from a CPA as well. And all of that's not possible if your financials are a mess or they're not organized. So what we built is DOOLA bookkeeping. And I'll quickly define bookkeeping, but easiest way I would define bookkeeping is it's a way to keep on top of your business's financial health more tactically, all your transactions in one place. So you can actually understand how your business is doing. Cash in, cash out, transactions, you can send invoices, you can actually have total peace of mind. What we wrote here is it's actually bookkeeping that won't make you want to rip your hair out, right? This is a very tedious task. So can you actually make it enjoyable? That was our goal. So a couple of things here, and I'll share a couple images. The first thing is you need to have trusted, reliable financials, right? So these integrate directly, secure integrations to your bank account. You can integrate or you can do a manual integration. Transactions will directly flow in. You can connect to payment processor like Stripe as well. And it gives you confidence, right? You need to have confidence in your business. And the best way to have that is actually have an understanding of the cash inflows and outflows. Like I mentioned, you can actually send invoices. So this is cool. You can actually use this as a way within DOOLA bookkeeping to send invoices to customers or potential customers to get paid. And you can track all expenses here. So if it's automatically connected to your bank account, fantastic, it'll show up, or Stripe, but you can also add manual transactions and expenses too. So with all that, I'm sharing here, this is a little launch we did on Product Hunt. You can check it out. And for this new bookkeeping universe, this is really targeted at folks who already have a business. And we call it a universe because this is for you if you have a business. If you don't have a business, you can also come to DOOLA and start. But in this case here, you can come in and we offer a couple services. We offer catch-up bookkeeping. That's, let's say in the case you actually haven't been doing bookkeeping, don't sweat, we can help with that. We have dedicated tax advisory too. So let's say you just want help with taxes. We cover multiple member LLC tax filings, single member LLCs and C Corps for non-US residents too. I will stress that. I see a couple of non-US founders here. We're actually able to support you there on the bookkeeping and tax side. And then we do the monthly bookkeeping. And what that summarizes with is we have this all-in-one accounting plan, which does it all, the bookkeeping, the taxes. And this is really the culmination of this learning we've seen from founders is they don't want to spend time on bookkeeping and keeping track of transactions. They want to focus on their business, talking to users, building the product. So if we can take time away from that, you focus on what you do best, DOOLA can handle the rest too. Now, for anyone listening here, you can book a free demo with the team. We'll walk through everything in terms of bookkeeping. And then you can choose, do I want help with tax filings, bookkeeping? Do I want help with everything? We're willing to help across the board here. So you can just head to doula.com/bookkeeping, hit book a demo, free demo, no strings attached. You don't have to pay anything for that. And we can walk through to see if we can help now. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to come back to the chat. I see a couple questions. So if anyone have questions on DOOLA bookkeeping specifically, please chime them in. But let me come back into the Q&A here and see if I can answer some new questions that came in. And I'll restate the question for newer folks. Again, if you are joining, please drop in the chat where you were based. Third Eye Kind, I see you're based in Boston. I actually grew up in Boston in Brookline. Let me know where in Boston you are. I hope you're a Patriots fan and a Celtics fan too. Laura, welcome from the Philippines as well. So we have a question here around from Philemon. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. We have big issues with the new bank rules in the US. Our bank account is closed. What should we do? Great question here. And let me actually give some historical context for folks. So if you go back maybe several years or a decade, you actually could not open a US business bank account in the US unless you actually physically visited the US. So that was very prohibitive, right? Because you have to book a plane ticket to come to the US or go on vacation here. Yeah, but you need to come to the US and actually walk into a branch. Now, in the last few years, there have been more banks that have actually made it possible to remotely apply and open a bank account. Now, an important thing here to note is that while many countries in the world are able to do this, meaning you can be a founder based in a non-US country, and yes, you can start a US business, you can get a bank account. There are certain countries where founders are actually not able to. And there's, I'd say, two buckets of reasons as to why. The first is certain countries, due to federal sanctions or federal regulations, aren't able to open bank accounts. And that's determined at, let's call it the state or federal level. So the government has decided, hey, for XYZ reason, we in the US banking system do not want to open accounts for folks here. That could be due to issues around fraud, terrorism. It could be anything in that bucket there, but we do not want to support countries there. And that's determined at the federal level. So that's not determined by the bank. There also might be cases where the bank itself says, hey, we don't want to, or we're not able to support a specific country. Now, that could also be for risk reasons. It could also just be, hey, we want to serve customers for a specific reason well, right? We know these customers from this region better. It's a better product or offering. So given this here, Philemon, I don't have full context, but if you want to drop in the chat, I'm happy to try to answer here. What country are you based in? So are you based in the US? Or are you based outside the US? That's one thing I'd love to hear. And then the second thing is, was your account closed due to a geographic reason, meaning, hey, we can't support you because you live in this certain country? It also could have been closed certain times, banks, if they deem a business too risky. And again, there can be some gray area there or what terms risk. But the bank wants to work with customers that are not risky. So there's no threat of potential or anything happening in the future. Right? It's a stable business. It's not too noisy in terms of cash inflows and outflows. There could be many reasons why a bank decides that. So if it was closed, what I would then recommend is there are other options you could try. So again, different banks will have different tolerance levels, if you will, for risk. Different banks will be able to actually open accounts from certain countries. There are also what you could call an international money transfer account or international payments type companies like a Payoneer or Wise, where technically it's not business banking in the sense that you're going to get a card, but you get a US ACH account and you're able to open up these accounts in other countries too. So what I would recommend here, and I'm making an assumption here, if you can drop this in the chat, I can give more context, but I'm assuming, hey, you were in a country where the bank said, hey, we can't work with you as a founder from that country. Again, that could be for federal reasons or it could be bank policy. If that's the case, you could try another bank, see if they could work with you. If neither of those work, I would then recommend something like a Payoneer or a Wise. And again, you'll get the ACH account there. That means you can connect it to a Stripe account, and you'll have to apply and go through the KYC process there. KYC stands for Know Your Customer. So please do drop more in the chat. I hope that I answered that there. By the way, for anyone listening, if you have any questions after this, you can schedule a free consultation with the DOOLA team. I'm going to drop in this free consultation link here. And again, if you have follow-up questions for things that we're covering here or any net new questions, happy to answer. Amanula, I'm going to follow up on your comment here. Let me read this. I already have my EIN under my company name, but if I want to request for another EIN under a different company name, is it possible? To clarify here, is this a second company or did you change the name of the first company and now want to get a second EIN? If you're just simply changing the name, I don't know if you need to request a new EIN. So I'm still curious here as to the end goal here. If you have a different company name here, if that means a new company, yes, you can. But if you're just taking a company and saying, hey, I want to change the name, and you already have an EIN, I don't necessarily know why you would have to, right? There's extra time, cost involved to do that. So that's my question there. But again, if you have a separate company, you can. Okay, awesome. Let me pop back into the Q&A and see if there's any new questions here. So again, for folks joining or who just joined, this is a business Q&A. Any questions on formation, bookkeeping, banking, taxes, and if there are any questions too about the entrepreneurial journey, we could talk about things like marketing or product or sales. You can drop those in the chat as well, or use the Q&A feature in YouTube live stream. Okay, I'm going to let folks chime in or at least think of some questions here. And while we are waiting, what I would actually like to do is I'd like to give a little demo here. So I'm going to log actually in to a DOOLA account, and I want to give you the latest peek of what things look like under the hood. If you're a DOOLA customer, you have full access to this. You can actually, believe it or not, if you're not a DOOLA customer, you can create a free DOOLA account and see this entirely on your own. What that allows you to do is you can actually get a taste of the experience and actually see what this will look like once you get started. So give me one sec here. Philemon, thanks for chiming in here. So let me actually see what you wrote, and I'll see if I can cover that. Okay, so let me share this here. Okay, we're in the DOOLA dashboard. I'm going to cover Philemon's second part of the question. So I'm based in Eritrea, one of sanctioned countries, but I have all my family in the US. I see. So it's a sanctioned country, meaning I'm guessing for federal reasons. Again, it could depend on the bank itself, but there's a sanction saying, hey, we actually can't support founders living in those countries. So I guess my question for you is, and I don't know this off the top of my head, do you know if Payoneer, for example, or Wise can work with you, or is Eritrea on the sanction list there? So that's an open question I have. Now, if every single bank or these payment companies has a sanction, unfortunately, I don't really know a great workaround there. But that would be my next immediate question is there another offering like a Payoneer or a Wise that can support you there? And if you'd like to, again, you can come to DOOLA. You can live chat us or check out our content. You can ask the team to help get some, or to get some help here to understand if your country is on the restricted list, and if it's not, help with guidance through the process. Okay. While folks are thinking of cues, I'm going to jump in here to the dashboard. I want to show the latest. So the first thing is, this is the DOOLA dashboard. Anyone can come in, create an account, and there's a couple things. So the first thing here is, if you haven't actually started the process to either migrate your company to DOOLA or start a new company, you'll see this big red button here. You just go in here, and from this place, you can actually submit your information to migrate your company to DOOLA or start a new company. Now you can see here, think of this as the cockpit of the plane. You can control everything about your business on the go from anywhere right here. Now I'll go through a couple things. The first is, this is empty because I haven't entered this information in yet, but you can see all of your company information here, right? Your name, do you have an EIN? You can quickly actually copy this information so you can use it in other banking applications or other platforms too. There's no documents here yet, but once you form your company, you get a lot of documents. You get your articles of incorporation or certificate of formation, you get your EIN confirmation letter, tax returns might go here. All of that can go here. So you can easily access all your documents. You don't have to have them in 4 different places. You then have the ability, as your business grows, to grow with us. So you can also add on things to your plan, depending on what plan you purchase. Would you like a CPA consult? We can help with BOI filings. You can get an individual taxpayer identification number. There's a lot more that you can do there. So start with us, depending on your plan. Then you can add on other offerings as well. We also allow you to refer and earn. So if you have founder friends, founders know founders, you can actually refer and earn a commission and give them a discount too. Taxes, DOOLA does taxes. We do compliance. So we'll actually do your federal tax filings, your state tax filings, and you can purchase that directly from your DOOLA dashboard. And then bookkeeping. I just talked about this. We did a little demo here, but you can actually now book a demo right here from the dashboard and watch some content. We put together a full course on bookkeeping nuts and bolts, and you can self-serve get started here too. Lastly, we have a community. So in the community, this is where you can actually connect with other founders from around the world. We put out content here on a weekly basis. We also do events like this. And you can actually chat and ask questions with the entire team. You get direct access to me and the team for content, questions, and you also can get sneak peeks of the latest content we put out, the 15-minute founder. We have weekly event replays here too. And really the goal here is that in the overall creation of content here, we're trying to give you a sneak peek in content which can help you run and grow your business. So even if it's not a live event, you can come in right here and join hundreds of other founders from all over the world to go through things like taxes. Maybe you're looking to start a second business, you want some side hustle ideas. We want to help across the board there. So again, even if you aren't a DOOLA customer, this is actually completely free to join. You can create a DOOLA account. You can come in and you can access the free version of our community. However, to access the community and the private channels, the member chat, live access to events we do, you actually need to have a business and move it to DOOLA or start a business with us. Okay, Philemon, yep, and anyone else, you can book a consultation with our company. We're happy to help. We have a question here from Laura. What are some common challenges founders face with business compliance, and how can DOOLA simplify this process? The very first thing is the IRS is confusing. It's one of the most complicated tax codes in the world. And your time as a founder is very important. It's the most valuable asset, actually, time in the world, but especially as a founder. So we want to educate you on, hey, this is what is required. These are the filings you have to do. But ultimately, we want to do it for you, right? A done-for-you solution. So we can educate you. We have content explaining how to do these filings, what filings are required, and do when. But for compliance, I think the biggest thing is actually, I would call it these known unknowns. You don't know exactly what you should do. You know there's something you have to do, right? There's a tax filing deadline each year, but what do I have to do? So The way I would say we simplify is we just do it for you. You can simply just pay us and DOOLA does it for you. And the calculus I would make here is even if it's $1,000 plus, could you in that time spent researching, and it could take hours of time, money, and stress, you could probably add $1,000 in revenue to your business, at least. So you're doing a time trade there. The peace of mind, no stress, trading it to an expert who's done this for thousands of customers around the world. We've heard from thousands of customers that's a great trade they would like to make 7 days a week, twice on Sunday. And that's the goal there. So again, you can work with professionals who've done this for many founders, and you don't have to think about this. It's out of sight, out of mind, handled by DOOLA. To get a bit more specific here, for any company, as a quick recap, there are a couple of things that you have to do to stay compliant. First is every business needs a registered agent. That's required in all 50 states in the US. You then have state filings you have to do. So in Delaware, that's the franchise fee. In Wyoming, that's the annual report. So at the state level, there are certain things you have to do to keep your entity compliant so it's not at risk for immediate dissolution. And the third thing is at the federal level, there are actually IRS filings. So that depends on the type of entity you have and where you're based, but there are federal filings. So one thing I will dispel is there are ways you might potentially pay $0 in US income tax, but you're going to have to do some sort of tax filing. In either the US or in your home country where income is generated or made, you're going to have to pay taxes somewhere. I do not recommend avoiding taxes. You should pay and you should stay 100% compliant. So DOOLA can simplify it by, again, we do the tax filings, and then to keep your books in order, your transactions in order so that tax filing is seamless. Again, you can DIY bookkeeping with our software, or you can pay a dedicated bookkeeper to do it for you. And if you have any questions about the tax filing process or bookkeeping, again, you can schedule a free demo with the team. We have a question here from Ananth. And as a reminder, we'll wrap up in the next few minutes here. But for anyone else, you can always just schedule a free consultation. Question here. Hi, Arjun. Ananth here from Philadelphia. Any advice for students on a visa in the US? Have you had such customers before? Any advice here that you may have? Appreciate the input/experiences. Okay, I do want to share something here. Now, the first question is, I will say, I am not a visa specialist or an immigration specialist. DOOLA actually has a partnership with a few companies that can help do a free consultation. The main one is actually called LegalPad. So what I would recommend is if you chat into our team, you can do this online or shoot us an email at hello@doola.com. We can actually share a link with you, Ananth, for a free consultation with the LegalPad team. So please do that because they're the specialists. I am not here. That being said, I want to share this link here. I don't know what visa you're on, but we've put together some content in terms of the types of visas where you actually can operate a company. So we get a question a lot about the H-1B visa. Technically, yes, you can be on an H-1B visa and you can start a business, but there are some important things to keep in mind in terms of how actively involved in the business you are. So I won't get too deep into that right now because we have a full blog post on this, but we have some content on this, but again, I'm really going to recommend in this case, please message us and we'll send you a link to chat with our partner LegalPad so they can do a free consultation with you in terms of what you should look out for anything regarding visas and whether or not you can or can't start a business on the specific visa you're on, and then things you should keep in mind. Okay, thank you, Evelina, for the kind words. We love a free demo. Please head to DOOLA.com, hit that free demo or book a demo button. And Ananth, please email hello@ or live chat us. We'll send you a link to that consultation. Last question here we're going to cover before we wrap up. From Chazzy Chaz 2. If I created my company this year for Wyoming, do I file my taxes next year at the time of creation? Fantastic question. We'll wrap up with this. This is great. Just so people actually, like I mentioned before, these known owns. So if you started your business this year, in the year 2024, the tax year in the US actually runs from January until December 31st. That is the tax year. Technically, you could adjust it or change it, but in this case, it's 2024. So your filings are going to be due in 2025. And the two main filing dates you should be aware of are at the state level, a year after you started, you're going to have to do your annual report to Wyoming. DOOLA can help with that. You can DIY it too, but you're going to have to do that in the next year. The other date you should keep in mind is depending on if you are a single member LLC or a multiple member LLC, you will then have to do your federal filing to the IRS in April if you're a single member LLC or in March if you're a multiple member LLC. For the multiple member LLC, you'll be filing a 1065 return. If you're a single member and if you're a non-US resident, it'd be Form 5472, or you'd be doing your 1040 if you are a US resident. So to summarize there, the 2 dates you should keep in mind, there's nothing you need to do right now, but you'll have the annual report at the state level next year, and then tax season in March or April. The good news is if you formed your business with DOOLA, we'll send reminders. So don't sweat. We start sending reminders out early, so you're aware these deadlines are coming up. You can chat with our CPA before the filing's actually done too. If you don't work with DOOLA, that's okay. You can actually migrate your business to us, and we're happy to help with both of those filings or one filing. You can choose a la carte as well. So great question here. You're fully on top of things, but nothing to sweat about right now. Okay, last question here from Janine, from Kirsten. I'm going to answer this one because I like it. And again, thank you everyone for tuning in. If you have any questions, like I said, email hello at schedule a free consultation. What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who are just starting out? I read this, I want to say a few months ago, but it really resonated. And the thing that resonated was intensity makes a good story, but consistency leads to progress. What I really like about that is you can take this to anything, whether it's starting a business or health. Intensity makes a cool story of, oh, I ran 15 miles in one day. But if you do that and then you don't run for the next 15 months, you're not really going to make much progress versus the person who runs 15 miles every week, or even if you just run 1 mile a week, you're going to make way more progress. So I think the same thing actually applies to entrepreneurship, where you could say, hey, I want to start a business and spend a weekend where you work 12 hours on Saturday and Sunday. But if you do nothing the next week or the week after, you're not going to make progress. Versus the person who says, hey, you know what? I'm going to spend 15 minutes a day. 15 minutes a day, but I'm not going to miss days. I'm going to stack days. And if I miss one day, I won't miss twice. And I keep stacking and I keep stacking. I bet on that person. That person's going to make way more progress. And again, the intensity, I work 2 12-hour days on the weekend. Look at me, versus the person who just keeps showing up, putting in 15 minutes. That person is actually going to succeed at a much higher rate. I'd say actually guaranteed to succeed if they keep doing that time after time. So to summarize there, for anyone, I remind myself this, but for anyone in the journey, the consistency is the key. Again, there's going to be periods. I like to think life's not a marathon, it's a series of sprints. So there's going to be times we need to crank up the intensity, but ultimately it's going to be the consistency, showing up year after year after year. And behind any success, you're seeing the tip of the iceberg. There's years of effort behind, years of learnings, things that failed as well. So I hope that resonates with at least someone there. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And again, if there are any questions, head to DOOLA.com. You can schedule a free consultation. And we will see everyone next time. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button for more live events like this and to see more content we put out too. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.